Cal Street and Bertha McNeil from the original Velvelettes. It's the Motown group. So let's start with the name because I love the name. I used to do a 6 o'clock 60s show in Detroit and we used to play your song. So first, how did you come up with the name?
Well, I tell you, our name was born on Western's campus. We Velvelettes loved to ride on campus when we were at Western because there weren't very many cars. So when you'd ride on campus, that was a big deal. But we loved to harmonize when we got together. And so this one time we were harmonizing, riding on the back seat of this car and just having a lot of fun. Said that you girls really sound, your harmony is really smooth. You know, it's as smooth as velvet.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, I think all of us, you know, a birdie went on in our head and we just said, Velvet, Velvelettes. Oh, hey, that would be a good name for us. And we all agreed.
How did you form the group?
You know, you and Mildred met at Western.
That's right.
To start a serious group so that we could enter a talent show together. My older sister brought me to Western, and then Bertha brought her cousin, Norma, to Western and Mildred, and then I brought my good friend Betty Kelly. And we all got together, we started rehearsing because we wanted to enter this talent show and win this $25, right, Bertie?
Oh man, $25 was like $100 back then.
Unbeknownst to us, in the audience that night was Berry Gordy's nephew. Berry Gordy is the founder of Motown Records Corporation. His nephew was a student at Western along with Millie and Bertha. He walked over to us and told us, "You ladies sound good. I'd like to see you audition for my uncle's company in Detroit." And he said, those records on the table over there. And he named off them as he pointed to them. He said, "That's my uncle's company." And I remember Betty Kelly saying, "Yeah, right." No, he said, "No, I'm serious." He said, "That's my Uncle Berry Gordy's company. He's my mom's brother. And he owns Motown Records. And we got a lot of artists." And so he started naming a few of the artists like the Marvelettes, the Supremes, Martha and the Vandellas, the Temptations, the Miracles. And so we were kind of like, really?
Who did the choreography? Like, did you have to come up with that?
No, well, initially we did our own, but soon after we got with Motown, not knowing, they hired a professional choreographer and dancer out of New York, Charlie Atkins.
Oh.
That's right.
And he is the one who he did choreography for everybody, for all the groups. And he was brilliant because he was able to make every group look different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and his choreographer was specific to each group. So he did that. And then we had Mrs. Maxine Powell, who taught us how to speak professionally, how to present ourselves professionally. Motown was different from all the other companies.
Yeah.
And people used to say that to us when we would go out doing different engagements. And they would say, "You can tell these Motown groups coming through here, they are just so classy and so well trained and polished."
Yeah, they love that word polished.
Yeah, Berry Gordy, the Gordy family, they ran that company. But they did a wonderful job. And so they expected their artists to also be part of the family. And that's how he operated his business. It's one big family, and just treat each other with respect and just, be glad and happy to be a part of the family, which we are to this day.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful and grateful to have had the opportunity to be a Motown alum.
And you know, that was one of the wonderful things that I loved about Berry Gordy. He made each of us feel like we were
Important. Significant.
special.
Can you tell me where Norman Whitfield kind of fits into your story?
Our Needle in a Haystack was his first really big hit.
He was a young writer, upcoming writer. He wasn't so popular when we first got there because different ones had been there longer than him. He was assigned to us. So he's the one who wrote Needle in a Haystack.
Wow.
He used to take me over to his house, and he and his wife would feed me dinner while he played a tape recorder on the the vestibule, whatever, for me to listen to the next song that I would have to record.
Wow.
So it was like that. He'd give me the tape and say, I want you to take this home, and you got to go to sleep thinking about it and wake up thinking about it because we're going to record it tomorrow afternoon at 2:00.
You know, talking about Whitfield, I mean, he wrote Heard It Through the Grapevine, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Just My Imagination.
Car Wash.
Some of the greatest songs ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He came in like he was competing with some of the writers and producers who had been there for a while. But he finally made his statement and made it well, because Needle in a Haystack was a hit before before the Supremes had a big hit.
That's right. That's right.
And the words I might add are still
from high school. Mrs. Edwards said, "You're going on a tour, Dick Clark Caravan of Stars tour with the Supremes." And Dick Clark wanted 2 girls groups from Motown. And so we went on that tour with the Supremes. And the Supremes did not have a big hit song out at the time. They had one, but it wasn't all that. And so Needle in a Haystack was a hit. It was out there. And before that tour, by the time that tour ended, 30 days later, Where Did Our Love Go was #1 in the country.
Yeah.
That was the Supremes' first #1 hit.
When you were performing, do you remember what it was like, maybe driving around in your car and hearing your song on the radio for the first time?
Oh, it was like I don't know. It's hard to say. All entertainers say that when they hear their voice coming through the radio for the first time.
Yeah, that first time.
No, it's shocking. You know, it's just shocking. You spent time in the studio recording, and when they finally release a song for you, you have no idea when it's going to be played. So you can be riding down the street or going to the mall or to the store, and all of a sudden, here are the Velvelettes, new release, and you're like, it just shocks you. You say, what?
And Cal, you remember the first time?
You get filled up with pride.
Yes.
You really do.
Yes.
You get just filled up with pride and emotion and screaming and hollering and yelling.
Oh, wow.
Can you guys see it?
Yeah, we see it.
Yay. Yeah. Okay.
That's me in the middle.
There's Betty Kelly. And there I am. And there's Mildred. And there's my cousin Norma. And one other picture while I have it. That's at the Apollo in New York. Yeah. And
what was that like playing the Apollo?
Oh, wow. That was one of my favorite theaters to go. When we went there, I actually saw on the walls, they had picture of people like Duke Ellington, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, and Cal and Mildred and myself were saying, we're like, man, we're here with these people performed on the same stage that Duke Ellington performed at. I mean, it was a thrill. It was a thrill.
But we were petrified though. They told us, at the sound check rehearsal, you got to be good. You've got to be really good, because the New York audiences are used to seeing and everything come up on this stage at the Apollo. Yeah. And if they don't like you, you will know it. And they had this guy that used to float around the stage. If they started booing you, he would shoo you off the stage with a horn, and they would boo.
That's right.
If they didn't like you. Their audiences were they could be that cruel.
That's right.
Because they didn't want to spend their time looking at somebody who didn't have anything going too much for them. So we were petrified initially, and the audience loved us.
Yeah.
They loved us. They were clapping loud and stuff, and we felt, oh Lord, we have arrived.
We made it. We made
Apollo Theater in New York.
That's right.
But we have to be in the theater all day.
And remember what time we'd go home. We wouldn't go home until or back to the
1
hotel.
or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I mean that was an all day, and we learned to eat at what we call them, the soul food places that were really close by. They had delicious food, but
they would bring some of it in. Sometimes they would cater.
Yeah. So that would be part of
do that. And they had, fortunately, they had cots in the dressing rooms.
And then I wanted to ask you about those Motown tours, because I've seen still pictures of them, but what did it look like from your perspective?
Well, as long as we stayed up north, it was fine. The southern tours, I wasn't that anxious to go on anyway, because there was a lot of racism going on. Tour bus. Now, this is a tour bus full of, how many, 30 or 40 seats, and the side of the bus had Dick Clark's Caravan of Stars on it.
Yeah. And
we went from one part of the country, Chicago area, all the way out west. But we had to go below toward the south to the Mason-Dixon line that they had talked about. Right. But we didn't really we didn't fear it, because we felt protected being on Dick Clark's Caravan of Stars tour.
Yeah.
But we went into a restaurant.
I'm not sure where it was. I'm not sure where it was, but
it was Howard Johnson's.
I
know what restaurant it was.
That's right.
They wouldn't serve us. Yeah, they wouldn't serve us because they said they don't serve Black people.
Yeah.
Dick Clark happened to be on the tour, and he came in the restaurant because we all came walking back out, and when we all came back out, he said, "Well, what's wrong? What happened?" And we said they said they're not going to serve us because they don't serve Black people. Dick Clark was furious.
Oh, very.
He was furious. He slapped his pen and his satchel down, and he went in the restaurant, and he hollered out. He said, "Hey, I want to speak to somebody here." And Dick Clark said, "What is this? You don't serve Black people?" Because we had never experienced that. And he looked at that man. He said, "I will see to it that you go out of business."
Wow.
You know, Howard Johnson no longer exists.
Yeah, right. Cal, didn't you room with Diana Ross on one of those tours?
Yeah, Diana Ross was my roommate for the Dick Clark Caravan of Stars tours. She was a sweetheart. She's older than me, so she treated me like a little sister. She really did. She just told me one time, she looked at me, she said, "You know, you can really sing." And I said, "Well, thank you." So we stayed together in our hotel room. We used to stand in front of the mirror and with our bra and panties on and argue over who was the skinniest.
Paint me a picture of your very best day as an artist.
I think one that really stands out in my mind is the very first time that we went to London and performed. And of course, after the performance, we signed autographs. But there was this one gentleman, when he came up, he had our 45 of Needle in a Haystack, and he had tears in his eyes. This gentleman had driven, I think, over 3 hours or more, you know what I mean, to see the show, to see us, to get that sign. And that kind of thing just warms your heart. If we make that one man feel good like that, can you imagine so many others?
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for giving me your time today and sharing these great stories.
Thank you very much.
Support for Kalamazoo Lively Arts is provided by the Irving S. Gilmore Foundation, helping to build and enrich the cultural life of Greater Kalamazoo.